Hello, everyone. My name is Garrett Greco, and today I'm going to be talking about an umbrella review that looked at how the built environment affects physical activity in adults in the United States 60 years and older. The study is titled An Umbrella Review of the Best and Most Up-to-Date Evidence on the Built Environment and Physical Activity in Older Adults. And it was published in Public Health Reviews in 2023, and it had an impact factor of 6.4. So, getting into the overview, the main focus of this research is to understand how things like sidewalks, parks, safety, and community design can influence how active people get as they get older. As we know, uh, staying active is one of the most important things for healthy aging. It helps with strength, mobility, and just overall quality of life. Even though we already know that being active is good for you, many older adults still don't meet the daily activity recommendations. So this study looks at what environmental factors sort of make it easier or harder for older people 60 and over to move more. Getting into the purpose. So, like I said, the purpose of this study, it's an umbrella review. It's pretty simple. To bring together the most recent, highest quality research on how the built environment, uh, like the physical spaces we live in, affects the activity levels in adults ages 60 and older. So the authors wanted to find out what features of neighborhoods actually help people to stay active. They combined evidence from multiple systematic reviews to see which results were the most consistent. And their goal was to help public health leaders, urban planners, and researchers understand what types of environments best support older adults in staying active, both for health and as well as for independence. By doing this, the study helps connect research findings to real world planning and as well as community design. Now, moving on to the methods. So, this was an umbrella review. So, it means it looked at other reviews rather than collecting new data, right? So, the researchers searched across major databases like PubMed, Scopus, um, Web of Science, and they included studies that focused on people 60 and older and that measured physical activity in relation to different parts of the built environment. So in total, they used 13 systematic reviews covering more than 500 individual studies from around the world. This focused strict quality standards using the JBI and AMSTAR 2 methods to make sure the included studies were reliable and up to date. And the data was grouped into themes such as walkability, safety, parks, public transport, and access to community services. So moving on to the results. So the studies came from a wide variety of countries, but most were from the United States and Canada. And this was something that was hard for me to find, a study that focused solely on the United States. So I sort of just took the information from the United States in this study, and we're going to build off of that. So almost all the research focused solely on walking as the main type of physical activity. Very few studies looked at things like cycling or recreational exercise, and most studies relied on self-reporting, things like surveys or questionnaires, rather than using trackable or wearable. This means that some of the data depended on how people remembered their own activity, which isn't always exact, but still the results showed that design and quality of the environment play a huge role in how active older adults are. So moving on to this table shows how different environmental features relate to physical activity in adults over 60, obviously. So the P is a positive relationship, the N is a negative, and the zero with the slash is a no clear link. The key findings from this table are that walkability had a strong positive link with total activity and all types of walking. Access to services, parks, and transit encouraged more daily movement. The sidewalks, benches, and bike paths supported walking and cycling. Greenery, safety, and cleanliness were tied to higher activity levels, and pollution and noise were the only negative factors. So the main takeaway, older adults are most active in neighborhoods that are walkable, safe, and well connected. So this is just a little bit of a continuation. This table focuses solely on safety and traffic factors. The research found that older adults are more active when they feel more personally safe in their neighborhoods. Crime and personal safety showed a positive relationship with total physical activity and walking, while traffic and pedestrian safety showed mixed results. High traffic and busy roads discouraged walking, but overall general safety was linked to being more active. So, environments that feel safe and have low traffic tend to support more consistent physical activity among the older adults. Moving on to the conclusion. So, the most important findings, let's talk about what these findings mean overall. So, the review showed that the most consistent factors connected to physical activity in older adults were walkability, access to parks and services, and neighborhood safety, right? So, these things combine to make an environment that supports daily movement and independence in older age. So the results connect strongly to public health frameworks like the World Health Organization's Age Friendly Cities Initiative, which focuses on creating these like livable spaces for the older populations. From a practical point of view, this research shows that urban planning and public policy have a direct impact on physical activity, and communities that invest in better sidewalks, lighting, and green spaces really help residents stay active, healthy, and socially connected. So moving on to the strengths and weaknesses of the study. The strengths, so it summarized evidence from more than 13 systematic reviews and over 500 studies, which gives it, a very strong base and very strong and wide evidence. The researchers used rigorous and transparent review models, so the studies and the results are trustworthy. And it can include studies from many countries, which gives it the global perspective. But like I said, I just wanted to focus here on the United States because that's what our project is focused on. The weaknesses, the most studies relied, I touched on this earlier, about the self-reported physical activity, which can be less accurate. There weren't many long-term studies, so it's hard to know the cause and effect. And most data came from high-income countries, meaning low-income or rural areas might have different challenges. Um, and that'll take us into the conclusions from the United States, right? So when we look specifically at the United States, the results show that walkability and safe design are key, and neighborhoods with sidewalks and crosswalks have much higher walking rates. Access to parks and nearby destinations encourages physical activity in many US states, especially where public transport is available. Neighborhood safety and the visual quality strongly influence whether older adults go outside and walk and get that activity in. Equity and access obviously remain, major challenges. The rural and lower income areas often lack um, safe sidewalks and community spaces, which can sort of limit, the physical opportunities. But better neighborhood design can definitely make a huge difference in how active Americans over the age of 60 are. So the authors recommended several directions for future research. They say we need clear and consistent definitions of what counts as these built environment factors, such as walkability or accessibility. We need more studies are needed to see how changes in environment affect people over time. And they also call for more research in low income and diverse regions to make findings more inclusive. And they, sorry, they encourage using tools like GPS or wearable devices to measure activity more accurately. And so my personal take is this study shows that our surroundings have a huge impact, on how we are and how active we are. So as someone that's interested in performance and physical activity, I sort of think that technology might be able to help the older generation. Um, the wearable trackers can sort of almost help bridge the gap between the environment and movement because they can give you direct feedback on how you're doing. And so by combining the smarter, city designs with community programs, they can make staying active easier and more enjoyable for everybody, especially older adults. And yeah, just to wrap things up, the study just gives us a clear message. Spaces we live in, our streets, sidewalks, parks, neighborhoods in the United States, all shape how active we are. And whenever they're walkable and uh, more beautiful, I guess, people of all ages will move more. So thank you for listening to my presentation and hope that you got something out of it. Thank you.